Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to check out another one of my videos. And in today's video, I'm doing something I always look forward to every year. I think this is the third year in a row I've done it, but I'm going to take and rank all of the palettes that I've tried this year up until this point. So for the first half of 2023, I've collected all the palettes that I have tried, and we're going to rank them from the worst all the way up to the best. As I said, I've done this in a couple years in a row now, and I always really enjoy getting to kind of look back and see how much that I tried in the year, getting to revisit all the palettes that I got to try and remembering how much fun I had, and then also just having to rank them all against each other. It can be pretty challenging, and of course I'm going to do this at the end of the year with the last half. At the last 6 months of the year, we'll do that in December. But for this video, we're going to be diving into reviewing all of the palettes I've tried so far for 2023. And surprisingly, it was more than I thought, because I went to my channel and I was looking over my Palette Palooza, because that's where I kind of officially end my reviews, and I only posted 2 videos so far this year. And I've reviewed a lot more. I have over 20 in front of me that I have, to rank in today's video, but I just haven't been able to do my Palette Paloozas very much, so I have a ton of palettes that still need to be featured in a Palette Palooza and give you guys my official review, show you guys all the looks that I tried, show you guys swatches and all that. So those are coming. They're just going to be a little late, but I didn't want to wait to do those videos and delay this video any, so you're going to be seeing things a little bit out of order, but hopefully you guys still enjoy it. So yes, that is what we're doing in today's video. Let's go ahead and just jump right into the sponsorship for this video, and then we can dive right into the video itself and ranking all of these palettes. You might notice that I have another piece of jewelry on because I forgot to put it on before I sat down, and I didn't want to have it on with a baby because she pulls on it. But regardless, I do have a necklace on now, and of course my earrings. But today's video, if you haven't guessed it, is sponsored by Ana Luisa once again. They have been a long-time sponsor on my channel, and I really do appreciate them and absolutely love their jewelry. I couldn't wear this today because I obviously already have a necklace on, but I cannot wait. But I really love this necklace right here, which is this heart with this green stone in it. It is so beautiful, lovely, really nice quality, very heavy duty. I really enjoy wearing this, but I decided to go with the K because I feel like it just went with my outfit and my makeup a little bit more than that one. But I love Ana Luisa jewelry. Ana Luisa offers long-lasting, like tarnish-resistant jewelry at affordable prices. I have been very impressed and pleased with the quality of their pieces. I've owned some of them, I think, for 2 years now. I forget exactly when I first got my first piece, but I wear them literally every day. The hoops that I have in my ears now, they are new because they're silver. I'm so excited that they're coming out with more silver, but that's beside the point. But I've been wearing this style in the gold for literally months and months and months. I just keep them in my ears. I shower in them, I live life in them, and every now and then I'll change them up for a different pair of Ana Luisa, but I always have one of their earrings in my ears. They stay really well. I haven't had any problems with them breaking, falling out, tarnishing, or anything like that. So very nice quality at not crazy high prices as well, which I'm super happy about because I'm not someone who likes to spend a ton of money on jewelry, but I like nice pieces. And this is something I didn't know until I was reading over the brief again and just kind of like, gathering my thoughts of what I wanted to say, but 100% of their pieces are strength and humidity tested, which I can attest to because, as I said, I wear at least their earrings, and I often have a necklace, except when I have a very young child because she'll just pull on it. I like to wear necklaces, and I always have earrings in my ears, and I live in Florida where the humidity in the summer is insane. Right now we're like heat index with the humidity is well over 100 like every single day for the past couple weeks, and I never have a problem with them tarnishing the piece itself or like making my neck turn weird colors or my ears turn weird colors or making them sore. So that's something that, I mean, as far as for me and living in Florida goes, I can attest to that they do not tarnish, and humidity, they hold up really well. And as I said, their designs are affordable. They start around $39 and then go up from there. And something else I don't think I've mentioned in my videos before, but they have a 2-year guarantee with their pieces, like a warranty with their pieces. If there's ever an issue of like something malfunctioning, breaking, tarnishing, or something going wrong with the piece, you can reach out to customer service, and they do have a warranty to back up the quality of their product, which I think is awesome when a brand really stands behind over 2 years, stands behind their product like that. So if you've ever had a problem, like I said, I haven't, so I haven't tested out how well the whole process is to go about using that warranty, but I do appreciate that they do offer it. They do always have a clearance, so if you're someone who doesn't want to, pay full price, or even just the sale prices maybe aren't as discounted as you would like, they do have a clearance section where things are often heavily discounted, and sometimes you can use codes on top of that, and I do have a code if you're at all interested. I'll leave it right here and down in the description box, but definitely recommend you check out the brand. And thank you so much to Ana and Luisa for working with me on this video. As I said, I really do appreciate them sponsoring me. I have a link down in the description box that I think will automatically apply my discount code if you do make a purchase, but check it out down below in the description box and I'll leave all the details there. Alright, so let's go ahead and dive right in. As I said, I have over 20 palettes, and the first two, I'm just going to group them together because I kind of tried them at the same time and I feel equally about them, so I'm just going to group them both here at the very bottom of the countdown. And it is the Urban Decay Naked Smiley palettes. We have a Mucho Happy and a Chill Happy. These palettes I did a video on. I only used them the one time using them in combination, but I have no desire to use them again, and I don't really want to try them any more than I have. I don't feel like my opinion's going to change at all as I use them more. The color stories are just so uninspiring, except for that one look that I did where I kind of used the most colorful shades in here, and everything else is just a little not interesting. These two shades are literally identical, so I don't want to use them at all, and I feel like that earns them a place at the very bottom of this countdown. I was not impressed. I don't think the quality is horrible when it comes to the mattes or the shimmers. They're both just fine, but I think the biggest gripe is just the color story, because when you're looking at the mattes, like in this palette, these are the only two mattes, and then up here it's these two and this one, which I mean, these honestly look so close, but the yellow is also a matte, and like that's it. And it's just, if you're someone who wants like one slight hint of color in your crease and then a very light shimmer all over your lid, maybe you'd like these, but if you can't tell from the look I have on, that's not my speed, and I was just very bored with this palette. Like I said, the shimmers are fine. They're nothing too amazing. I did a video, as I said, where I tried these out and they were just okay. The mattes were just okay, very soft, just okay, and the shimmers were just fine. They weren't anything beautiful, amazing to write home about. They showed up. There was a color there. Very soft as it was, but there was a color there. But just because I don't want to use them ever again, and like I have no desire to, I was so bored with them, I feel like that earns them a bottom spot. Even though, like I said, I only used them once together, so it wasn't a very thorough review in my trying this. I have literally one look with them. I don't want to use them again, so they get the bottom of the countdown. This one is getting bottom, and it's not like towards the bottom, obviously. This is the second palette I'm mentioning, but I tried a lot of awesome palettes this year. I'll just, kind of like give a little disclaimer. I tried a lot of really good palettes this year. The really only horrible dud that I would never want to try again and don't understand why anyone would want to try are these two. And I mean, like I said, they're not even that terrible. They're just not for me. So keep that in mind as we go on, because I feel bad putting this at the bottom. But it is the Ladybug Glow palette, her first palette that she came out with. It is a very pretty palette, like color story wise. I think she did a beautiful job. There's two multi-creams in there, so that's neat, but as a whole it was just an okay quality. I don't think it's a terrible quality. You can definitely get very beautiful looks. I did use this and created a really fun look, but as it stands, and like just comparing it to all the palettes that I've tried that have really great formulas, it didn't stand out and just like wow me and just, you know, make me think back on it fondly, make me want to use it over and over. And also too, with the two multi-creams, I felt like they were very similar. I kind of wish, if you're gonna go multi-cream with such a special type of eyeshadow that's always so shifty and giving you different colors, I wish they would have been more different from each other. And maybe this is because I'm not a multi-cream fanatic, because there definitely is a difference between them, but they're very close. So for me, it was just kind of like, I kind of always geared towards one, the one that leaned a little bit more greenish, and the other one was just, it was whatever. But that's the biggest reason why I'm putting this at the bottom. It was a fine palette, but it just didn't grab my attention. It didn't really like wow me with the looks, and it was just an okay quality. They worked nice, but we're going to talk about some pretty amazing palettes as we go on up, so I had to place it here. And this is one that I have not reviewed in a Palette-Palooza, so you will see all the looks and I'll go more in depth in those videos, so coming soon, stay tuned. But for the brief little countdown video that I'm doing today, it is getting the bottom. Okay, next up I'm going to give it to the Menagerie Cosmetics Claws palette, and honestly just because of how soft this is. And again, it's a me thing. Quality wise I think is lovely. It's got a really nice soft formula, nice pigmentation. The colors themselves are all very light and kind of washed out, so they're nothing like intensely saturated, but that's not what they were going for in this palette. And then the shimmers are very nice, but again soft, and you guys know me, I'm not really into the soft, barely there, little hint of color on the eyelids. So this did give, you know, a little bit of depth here with the brown. It did give a little bit, but it still didn't give me the depth that I like. So for me, the quality is nice, but the color story is just not where it's at. So that's the biggest reason it is getting so low in the countdown. But if you like soft type of barely there, kind of like that periwinkle twinkle type of eye look, I don't know why that comes to mind, but that's the descriptor I think of when I look at this palette, and for me, it's just not my speed when it comes to the type of looks I like to get, so it is getting towards the bottom, even though I love having it because it is a gorgeous palette. Okay, next up is going to be another palette that I only tried once. This is the last palette that I've only tried once, but I did try it this year, and I don't plan, I mean, maybe I'll try it once more, but I don't plan to use it much more. It's the Pat McGrath Labs Celestial Nirvana Eyeshadow Palette Bronze Bliss. That is a long name for a tiny little palette with one matte. I'm sorry. This is a Pat McGrath that I got in an Ipsy, and I was like, oh my goodness, it's Pat McGrath. I gotta try it. I opened it up and I was like, 4 shimmers that are all just kind of almost the same type of bronzy. This is a darker one, I will give it, but everything else, all the others are really similar, and one black matte. I mean, granted, I am glad they put a black because you can go and, you know, blend out the black to get gray and get more dimension there, and you can get a really nice, you know, dark outer corner, but I was just like, at least have some variety even amongst the shimmers. You guys know I like my mattes more than my shimmers, but at least have some variety with your shimmers. I don't know, I was very unimpressed with the color story, but I did want to use it. I don't think you guys have even seen that video yet where I used this palette, but it is coming soon, I promise. I did use it, and it's nice, but maybe it's because I try so many indie brands. It wasn't anything mind-blowing, and considering how expensive I feel like Pat McGrath products are always, like they're always super expensive, I just don't think it's worth the price. So, like I said, I'll probably try it one more time, mixing it with another palette to get some type of interesting eye look out of this, but I really have no desire to, and I think the biggest reason it's landing so low is because, like I said, it's so expensive. The formula is so crazed and hyped. This color story is just not doing it for me, and then the quality is just good. Like, it's not bad at all. It's not even just okay. It's a good quality eyeshadow for sure, but even in this video alone, all of the brands I'm talking about with all the palettes, they're just as good or better in some cases with some brands. They're better quality than this, so I'm just like, what is the hype? I don't understand. Next is going to be the Ruby May Spiced Latte palette. I don't even know if you can get this palette anymore, but I did just finally try it after I bought it like 2 years ago. I forget. I bought it during a sale. I've always hung on to it because I love this color story and I wanted to try it. I finally did, and it's a lovely color story. I really did enjoy it. I like the ratio of mattes to shimmers. I like the different type of shimmers they had. They had like these two are more kind of subtle, and this one is more intense and almost like a liquid looking metallic on your eyes, and this one's also more of a subtle, but they still show up nicely. Not to say that they're not a good quality, they're just not like liquid metallic on your eyes like that one is. And then the mattes are lovely. Like, they're really nice quality, very soft and very smooth feeling, and they're nicely pigmented. There's a lot of depth in here as well. I was very impressed with this. Like I said, I have no idea if you can actually get it, but this is the 3rd Ruby May palette that I've tried, and all 3 of them I've been very impressed with the quality and the color stories that Ruby May tends to give and release really fun color stories. So if you've never looked at Ruby May, if you've never tried them, I can't say what their new palettes are like, but I really did enjoy this one. I've enjoyed their Christmas one, and the first one I tried I think was a zombie inspired one I got in like a box, but I like the color story and I like the quality, so I can recommend those 3 for sure. But this one, yeah, I was really pleased with it, and such a fun fall color story. I love these tones. These tones are so pretty. Okay, Menagerie Paw Palettes is gonna come next. This is a cute little palette, definitely a color story that you guys know I love. Quality wise, great mattes, great shimmers, more mattes than shimmers, and the shimmers that they put in here were very fun and different from each other, and this one was a little bit, I think, duochromatic. I don't think it was a multi-chrome, but it had a little bit of a duochromatic to it, and I like the variety of shades in here. These tones, especially the mattes, are just mattes that I love to play with and love to create eye looks with, so I had a lot of fun with this palette, and I had to put it fairly high. We're not at the top half of this countdown, but there's so many good palettes coming up that are bigger palettes, that too, like bigger palettes, more variety, more fun color, color combinations you can put on your eyes. So these smaller palettes kind of stand no chance unless they totally blow my socks off, because I just love the big palettes with all the color story options, but this as it stands by itself, it's a fantastic palette. Okay, next up is the It's Belle Cosmetics Fruity Realm palette. This is an all matte palette that's got a great quality formula in it, and especially for such bright, intense colors. I was a little worried how they would play and mesh together and how they would blend out, but I didn't have any problems, and I love the depth you could get. I love the intensity, like the neonness you could get. I liked how they blended out. I like the pigmentation that they had. This one is definitely a lovely formula. Like, look how intense that is. So beautiful, lovely formula, and I played with this a lot with the Oden's Eye Jewel single eyeshadows that they came out with. I use this a lot with it because a huge 40 collection. I did a video on it where I swatched them all on my eyes, but it was like 40 single shimmer eyeshadows. So I played with it a lot with this palette and had a ton of fun. But yeah, a great little palette and just perfect for summer. I've really been enjoying going super colorful for the summer, and this little palette can definitely give you that. Okay, next up is going to be Odin's Eyes, the Planet Spirit palette. This palette is a fun little palette, but it's getting a little bit lower considering other palettes that we're going to talk about because the color story was more unique and there wasn't the depth that I like when it comes to my colorful looks. So while this is a fun palette, I got really creative type of looks with it. It was missing a little bit something for me to really feel like, yes, like I really enjoyed playing with it. The type of eye looks that I got were just my type of colorful eye looks. This was a little bit more of like, it stretched me. It made me try things that I typically wouldn't try, or the eye looks that I typically wouldn't wear, which is a great thing, but when we're ranking my favorites, hence why it's landing where it is. But quality-wise and, you know, pigmentation-wise, when it comes to the shimmers and mattes, very nice formula, very, very pretty. I like the array of mattes to shimmers that they have. They have like the multi-chrome over here. Very nice, very pretty. So had to rank it high, but not as high as some other ones. All right, Odin's Eye Sea Talk palette is coming in next because this is a fun color story, but not one of my absolute favorite, just the type of color stories that just make me absolutely fall in love with the palette. The type of eye look is a little bit different than I prefer, and I think that's why it's landing a tiny bit low because it's got the depth in there, it has the brightness, but when you actually like sit there and, you know, kind of figure out the type of eye looks that you're gonna get and what you're gonna go to, when you kind of parcel out the mattes to shimmers, there's more shimmers than mattes in here, which you guys know already kind of ticks it a little lower for me, but then the mattes, like two of them are very, very neutral. Then this one is like one of that satiny shades, so it's not a full matte, so I didn't love how it looked on my skin when I blended it and treated it like a matte. And then a really great, you know, outer corner, but the mattes is where it was a little lacking for me. I'm not someone who's crazy creative and like to have all the type of shimmers on my eyelids. I tend to just use 2, maybe 3 if I'm getting creative type of thing. So for me, the ratio of mattes to shimmers and then the type of like color story this has going for it, while it is colorful with the green and the blues and the pink, there is a lot of neutrals in here, so that's the biggest reason why it didn't like, you know, blow my socks off when it came to the color story and why it's landing maybe a little bit low considering all the palettes that I'm reviewing. It's not, you know, making the top half, that type of thing. So overall, quality wise though, if you know, ignore the color story and the type of looks you can get, if you like what you see, quality wise it was really, really nice. There are more flaky type of shimmers in this palette, but the creator who did this palette with the brand likes that type of look, so it makes sense. But for me, I don't like flaky shimmers, so it wasn't one of my favorites, but it's still getting fairly high in my countdown when we talk about all the other palettes because I really do enjoy the Odin's Eye formula and the creator, and it is a unique and fun color story. I can definitely, this is a palette I can get like 2, maybe 3 looks that I really, really like, but besides that, I wasn't inspired to keep going back to it, so that's the biggest reason why it's maybe not as high as you might have thought I would put it. All right, we're gonna talk about the first of a few Nomad palettes. This is the Love and Death palette, and this palette, biggest reason it's getting a, you know, where it's at and not as high as the other Nomad palettes is because the color story. While I did enjoy the color story, I'm not a big pink fanatic and also not like a purpley mauve fanatic, so that's the biggest reason color story wise. There's the rest of the palettes we're going to talk about. The color stories are just so good, but quality wise this is a really great palette, and I surprised myself by how much I enjoyed this palette. I think if I like the looks that I got, I would leave the makeup table and be like, I really like this, and it surprised me, so I had to give this a fairly high ranking, even though, like I said, not into the pinks and purples, but this palette definitely was making me love some pinks and purples. And also when we're talking about quality, mattes were out of this world amazing, and the shimmers were also really, really nice. A couple of them, like especially this one, was a little bit more firmly pressed, but the result and like what you got on your eyes was very smooth and just so insanely like foiled looking and shiny looking and like sparkly looking, so it was worth the struggle to put it on. This one was also a little firmly pressed, but very, very pretty. I had to give this one a fairly high ranking because it surprised me how much I enjoyed it. Okay, I was not sure where to put the P. Louise Unlock Your Creativity palette because while I love the options when it comes to this palette, like there are just so many matte options, I was not a fan of like the difficulty-ness that I encountered with doing it because you can't just like lay it flat, you kept having to flip it back and forth. I really wished they would have put like the mirrors in the middle and then, well, I guess maybe just put it all on one side and then put the mirrors on the other side just so I could open it and just have at it. But having to go back and forth was just a tad bit annoying. But I mean, I also really enjoyed all the color, the creativity that I got out of this. But then also too, when I really analyzed the quality of this palette, I wasn't as much of a fan of the quality as I remembered loving P. Louise. And I think the biggest issue for me was while the mattes are like the mattes, they're all mattes. While the dark shades were very pigmented and very impressive, like they had so much saturation, oh my goodness, I felt like the really lighter shades, the kind of, you know, even neon, but also pastel, were really weak in that they were see-through. Like I felt like I kept having to pack it on and I had to be careful not to blend too much. I had to really press it on to make it stay and not just be like the dark shades on my lid, if that makes sense. Like they were just so see-through-ish. Like you could still see color. They had color pigment to them, but they were very thin. So I just felt like you could see right through them and I couldn't get as smooth of a blend, as seamless of a blend from the dark to the light as I prefer. So with all that said, I really struggled. I'm gonna place it right here in the middle because like I said, I love the options. I love how much color, like the type of looks are just endless if you want creative color. They're endless. It's fantastic, but I wasn't as crazy about the formula as I remember the Worldy palette being, or as I remember enjoying the Worldy palette. Maybe I've just continued to try so many great brands that it just, you know, sits a bit lower. And it's big and bulky, but the big and bulky I really can't fault it because I knew that going into it. So I don't know. This is, I'm so torn on this palette, but I placed it right here in the middle because I'm torn on it. Okay, Natasha Denona Yucca palette. Had to place this one here. I was really impressed with the quality and I was really impressed with the color story. I created so many fun looks with this palette. I will say the more I played with it, the more I realized how neutral of a grungy, colorful palette that it was. Like that's why it's not going as high as the palettes that I compared it to, like the Nomad and the Odin's Eye that came out around the same time that had similar color stories. Those are getting much higher because they had more options, more creativity with the type of looks that you could get and more difference from look to look than this one did. I feel like this one I really had to focus on like, okay, what have I done already? How can I create another look and not make it look the same in order to really enjoy this palette and get a lot of creativity? Because if I didn't pay attention going into it, every single look that I did pretty much would look the same. Because when you really sit here and look at it, yes, there's some reds and greens in it, but there's a lot of browns. All of the tones are very similar. All of the shimmers are very similar. There's not a whole lot of like differences when it comes to the shimmers that you can put on your lid. They were looking pretty much the same. So I didn't like, it didn't blow my socks off, and I love it as much as the Odin's Eye and Nomad that are similar to this, but it's still a great palette. For, I think it was $69. It's not as expensive as some other palettes that they launch. I was really happy about that. And quality wise, it is nice. If you're someone who likes the more luxury price tag, you like to be able to buy it at Sephora, that type of thing, and you know, you want to wait for a sale or something like that, I do think this is worth it. It's a nice quality palette. It's got nice metallic closure. You can pull out the pans inside if you want it. So overall, I really like this palette. And honestly, I think I like it even a little bit more than the other palette I tried, the Circle Local palette. This is my type of neutral. You guys know this, so it's getting a pretty high spot. Overall, it didn't like blow my socks off, but they were pretty looks. They were great everyday looks, and I was happy with the quality. Okay, next up has to be the Odin's Eye Flora Story palette. I was really impressed by how much I enjoyed this. It's purple and grungy greens. I did not think I would enjoy that combination as much as I did, and obviously I've gone on to like try it some more because I got purple and green going on my eyes today. It's a totally different palette, but very similar to something I could get from this palette. I think that's kind of funny. But to go into the quality of the eyeshadows, very happy. Split down the middle, mattes to shimmers. These shimmers are all like not super different, but there's differences within the palette that I always like to get when it comes to the shimmers. I like to change them up a little bit. And then the mattes are also a really nice different. You got a dark purple, dark green, light green, and a little bit of a taupe in there to mix it up and try something different. But for a tiny little palette, I created so many different types of looks that I didn't feel like I was getting too repetitive. There's a multi-chrome in here that's always super fun, and I had to give this one a high ranking. So I think this is the smallest palette that's landing so high. So that tells you something. All right, moving on, we have the Menagerie Cosmetics Killer Purr palette. This palette is the reformulated and revamped that I love so much. They added a little bit of color to it, and I love everything they added, and I love that they updated it because they also put their newer formula when it comes to the shimmers, which I love so much than their older shimmers. I really did enjoy it. The only like nitpick I can give it is that the two shimmers on either end are a little similar when you actually use them. I feel like they look kind of different when they're on camera and whatnot, but when you actually use them, I was just like, they could have been different, or you leave one out and, I don't know, put in a different, like a lighter green. I don't know, but that is literally nitpicking because overall, I like the mattes, I like the shimmers, I like the variety. You could get very colorful. Again, I love these type of tones. It's getting higher than the Yucca palette because you got variety, and I feel like I could do looks out of here that weren't too similar to the previous look. I could stick to the yellow green, I could stick to the yellow orange, that type of thing. I could, you know, use this shade and it would look entirely different than, you know, what you would expect from this color story. I love that in a palette, and this can definitely give it to me. You can, I mean, use this and this blue one, and I don't think you would think that look came from this palette, you know, because it's just so grungy and kind of like that grungy yellow green type of color story, but I love that variety in the palette, so I really do like this palette. I am so glad they updated it, and I can definitely say I recommend and love everything about this palette, and per usual, fantastic cover on here. I just love the artwork of Menagerie Cosmetics. Alright, next up is going to be the Simply Posh Cosmetics Berry Ice palette. I was not expecting to love this palette as much as I absolutely did enjoy and love this palette. I really thought it'd be very purpley toned, but as you can see, it's more heavy on the blues and like neutral tones than really the purple. There's a little bit of purple in there, of course. You got purpley tones, you got some pink tones, but it's very heavy. Like there's a row up here of like more greeny blues, which I thought was fun and different and unexpected. So I really enjoyed, of course, when it comes to Simply Posh Cosmetics, they always give you such a large variety and such a fun and unique type of color story that I had a lot of fun mix and matching the like, you know, blue-green with this more neutral tones, the purple with the blue and whatnot, and I got a lot of really fun looks. The shimmers as well, I really do enjoy. The Simply Posh Cosmetics shimmers as a whole are a little bit more firmly pressed. Not all of them really firmly. I will say they have been improving the texture to make it easier to pick up, but the formula as they stand are just a little bit more firmly packed in there, so it takes a little bit more effort to put it on. But once you get them on the eye, they are so sparkly, so beautiful. I really enjoy them and find them worth the effort to put on in order to wear them and just, you know, see the gorgeousness. And I did like that they played around a little bit with the formula of them not all just being insanely sparkly. A lot of them had a lot of, you know, like intense color to them, like up here and whatnot. And you even got a little bit of a grunge iridescent down here. I thought it was really fun altogether. So yeah, this one I do already have a review in a Palette-Palooza. I'll leave that link down below, but definitely had to rank this one high just because I wasn't expecting to love it, but the quality of the mattes was amazing, the quality of the shimmers is lovely, and the color story was so fun. Next up is the Wicked Widow Scissorhands 2, I think is what it's called. They don't write the name on it, so I have no idea, but there's a bunch of scissors. I think it's Scissorhands 2. I forget. Anyway, this color story, I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed that they had like a dark blue, light blue, dark green, light green, dark purple, light purple. It made it really like easy to blend out shades and get that seamless blend, but the color combinations of what you can mix together were endless. So I feel like every time I went into this palette, I got a different type of look, or I could get as creative and different as I liked. And then the shimmers were very dark. I was surprised by, like, as I played with it, how deep they were and how like grungy of a look you got. So, and also with the quality, I was really like impressed with the quality of their shimmers. They're very smooth, not hard to pick up at all, very easy to put on, very like sparkly, shimmery. Some of them have that metallic look to them. Very pretty. And I was honestly surprised because the first time I tried Wicked Widow Cosmetics, I wasn't super impressed with the palette like at all. So for me to enjoy it as much as I have and like really like it, like I really did enjoy this color story. The colors, the quality, the formula of the mattes and shimmers, I was so impressed with. I was amazed that I enjoyed it so much because honestly I was a little nervous because I didn't enjoy the last one, but they made some major improvements with this one. Okay, the Nomad Okavango Safari palette. I know I butchered that and I'm so sorry, but this palette doesn't look like too amazing, surprising, and just like, why would you love that? But I love this palette. Again, I like these tones, and when it comes to a solid formula, I'm just gonna love it that much more, and Nomad Cosmetics, of course, gave me a solid formula. This is such a great color story. If you're wanting something neutral with a pop of grungy green, this will give it to you every time. They also got some like, you know, cool tone silver and like grungy, like a charcoal type of color. It's not really black, but like a charcoal. Really pretty. You got depth in there. You got more color. This is a more neutral palette up here. This kind of reminds me again of the Yucca palette, except I enjoyed this formula more and the differences between the shimmers and mattes, like the colors that they gave you. I just felt like I could do more with this palette than the Yucca palette, and it's less expensive. So I like that about it. So hence why I'm ranking it a lot higher. There are two marbled shadows, and a lot of people were asking me like, does it get hard pan? A lot of people are saying it gets hard pan. I experienced hard pan after I swatched it, so I scraped it off and I've been using it a couple times since then, and I have not experienced hard pan. So I think it might just be like a finger, the oils in your finger problem, but just using my brush, I mean, it's definitely a more firmly pressed shadow that, you know, takes a little bit of pressing in there to get it up, but I don't call that hard pan. Like, I can get it up. It's just a very firmly pressed shadow. So I don't have a problem with that, but just something to note, if you do have hard pan, maybe think like, am I touching it with my fingers, that type of thing, or am I spraying my brush and then going in there? I can definitely see it being more problematic shadow, but with them only being two of them, and like I said, I didn't experience any more of it once I scratched off and stopped touching it. Something to note, but personally for me, it didn't bother me once I scratched it off. It's been fine. So ranking this one super high. What are we at? Number 5, 6, 5. So out of all the palettes I tried this year, this one gets the number 5 spot. Okay, Odin's Eye, the Stone and Rocks palette had to come up a little bit higher than the Nomad because I think it's this grungy green that gives it to me. Something about it, but also I really did enjoy how with the shimmers, like you had this multi-chrome down here, you had different shades, and this shade right here is like super different and dark. I love the variety when it came to the color story that they gave you. Again, a really great formula. There was a little bit like this one was probably my least favorite just because it is more of a boring shadow and it is that flaky type of shadow. But as a whole, you have more interesting options to play with when it comes to the shimmers, and a little bit more interesting options when it comes to play with the mattes. And I had a lot of fun with this palette, and I had to give this one just one step higher than the Okavango palette from Nomad Cosmetics. But regardless, it's still a fantastic palette. The mattes are my favorite when it comes to Odin's Eye. The Odin's Eye mattes are just so beautiful and effortless to blend. They're so insanely saturated. And again, this color story, it just speaks to my heart. So maybe you guys already knew this, but it was gonna get a high spot because it's my type of neutral. Okay, next up, the Simply Posh Cosmetics Citrus Punch palette. Oh my goodness, I have not reviewed this officially on my channel, but like, look at this palette. It is such a fun summer palette, and like the colors, the saturation, the intensity of these mattes are just so loud. They are that kind of neon level, maybe not full neon, but they are loud, they are vibrant. The pink is so vibrant, it stains. It's a gorgeous palette. I cannot wait to give a full review and show you guys all the different looks that I've created with this palette. I just have so much fun mixing and matching these rows, like doing pink and yellow, green and pink, orange and green. Oh my goodness, just so many options. I love it. I love how they do dark and light and give you the shimmers in between. It's a great palette. What can I say? I absolutely love it. This is gonna be such a boring review because it's just getting the top spot, the third spot, because it's got an insanely colorful color story. It's got a really solid matte formula. It's got a really fun shimmer formula. As a whole, yes, a little bit tricky, or like a little bit more firmly pressed to pick up, but once you get them on your eyes, so beautiful. So yes, winning the number 3 spot very easily. Okay, next up, Blend Bunny Cosmetics Lure palette. Oh my goodness, I enjoyed this palette so much. Yes, I said that twice, just because I have to get across to you how much I enjoyed this color story. I love what Blend Bunny did here. The color combinations that you can do between these rows with like the green, the purple, the green, the pink, the blue, the purple, the blue, the green. Again, unlimited options when it comes to the type of looks you can get with this palette. The shimmers are also really nice. They're more of that squishy type of formula when it comes to like moving them around. They're like flaky, or it looks like it's gonna be flaky, but then you go to touch it and it's almost squishy. I don't know what you call that formula, but it's very pretty on the eyes. It takes a little bit of effort to like put it on and blend it all out. And sometimes I feel like they can be a little bit like, they're so light of a shade that it almost looks that, you know, this looks the same as that. They're meant to be very light and kind of, you know, that pastel look on the eyes. At least that's how I saw it. So I wasn't too disappointed with them, and with so many masks to play with, you guys know I'm not terribly picky when it comes to my shimmers, so I really enjoyed it. Pearl was definitely my favorite. This pearl shade, oh, so beautiful. So yeah, I had so much fun with this palette. Definitely loved it. Love the color story, and it's a fun, like, yes, it's colorful, and yes, it gives you that blue, purple, pink, green color story that's very like oceany, lure, you know, mermaidy, but the tones, the hues, there's that grunge factor to it that just made it a little bit more special and stand out from all the other palettes that I've tried that had that mermaid vibe to it. So had to give this a very high spot. Okay, last up, did you guess my number 1? It's the Nomad Royal Europe palette. I feel like I can't stop talking about this palette, so I had to put it at number 1. Like, oh my goodness. It's a smaller palette, and like the Blend Bunny we were just talking about has more options, but there's something special about this palette. The dark, royal, grungy tones stole my heart, and then all the shimmers in this palette are multi-chromes. Say no more. I am just in love. I've shared so many of my eye looks that I created with this palette on my Instagram. I feel like you guys are sick of seeing it over there, but I just loved how they turned out, and the fact that they have such strong multi-chrome shifts. Like, there's a lot of multi-chromes out there, but not all of them have a strong shift. But yeah, I can't say enough great things about it. Again, I love when you give a dark green, dark blue, light blue. You know, you have a very neutral tone down here, so you could get a very neutral eye look if you didn't want to go full color, but you can also go crazy with the color. You can mix and match the different rows, you know, on your eyes to really just go crazy with the creativity. So I had so much fun with this palette. I love the depth, I love the grunge, I love the royal. The packaging is also really fun with that kind of, I don't even know what you call this. If you know what this is called, let me know. But it's super fun. So, but you know, even though this is a beautiful palette and whatnot, still the number 1 reason I'm putting it so high is because I just absolutely loved the looks that I created with this palette, and I just couldn't get enough of it. I created so many looks, I forget how many. I couldn't get enough of this palette. Alright, so we made it to the end. Those videos are always so long. I always go into this saying like, this is gonna be a quick 15-20 minute video. I'm gonna record it super fast, and then I'm here at like, you know, an hour. So, sorry about that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and enjoyed getting to see all of the palettes. I hear my little one waking up, so I'm gonna keep this outro pretty pretty short and sweet. Thank you once again so much to Ana Luisa for sponsoring the beginning of this video. I really do appreciate them sponsoring this video, and I appreciate you guys for listening. And if you ever go and click the link in the description box, that helps me out so much, just to let them know that I am sending some traffic their way of people checking out the website. Even if you don't make a purchase, just clicking it and checking out the website also helps me out as well. So thank you guys so very much. But with all that said, that's gonna do it for me. Thank you guys once again for watching. And yeah, I'm over on Instagram, as I've mentioned in this video, over on Instagram, LadyKatie92, and you can see more up close eye looks and reels and whatnot when I have time. But yeah, I'm over there if you were at all curious to follow me on Instagram. And with all that said, I'll see you guys very soon in my next video. Bye guys.